of this, they worship. And around that they do all kinds of rituals, Indian puja, all that business goes on. And that's called religion, which has absolutely nothing to do with behavior, with our daily life. So, seeing all this, both in the West and the East, in the world of Islam, in the world of Hindu Buddhism and all, this is the same principle going on. Worshipping an image which they have created, whether it's the Buddha or Jesus or Christ, it is the human mind that has created the image.
Oh yes, oh certainly.
And they worship the image which is their own. In other words, they are worshipping themselves.
And the division, the split grows wider. Yes.
So religion, when one asks, what is religion? Obviously, one must negate, in the sense, not brutally cut off, understand all this. And so negate all the religions. Negate the religion of India and the multiple gods and goddesses, and here the religion of Christianity, which is an image which they have created, which is idolatry. They mightn't like to call it idolatry, but it is. It's an idolatry of the mind. The mind has created the idea, and the mind, through the hand, created the statue, the cross, and so on and so on. So, if one really puts all that aside, the belief, the superstition, the worship of the person, worship of an idea, and the rituals and the tradition, all that, if one can do it, and one must do it, to find out.
Exactly. There's a point of terror here that is many faceted, it seems to me. It has so many different mirrors that it holds up to one's own dysfunction. To reach the place where one is willing to begin at the point where he makes this negation in order to find out. He thinks very often that he's being required to assume something in advance in order to make the negation. And therefore he balks at that, and he won't do it.
No, because the brain needs security. Otherwise it can't function.
That's right.
So it finds security in a belief, in an image, in rituals, in the propaganda of 2,000 or 5,000 years. And there is a sense of safety, comfort, security, well-being. Somebody is looking after the image of somebody greater than me who is looking after my, inwardly he's responsible, all that. So when you are asking a human being to negate all that, he is faced with an immense sense of danger. Immense sense of, he becomes panicked.
Exactly.
So, to see all that, to see the absurdity of all the present religions, the utter meaninglessness of it all, and to face being totally insecure and not be frightened.
I sense a trick that one can play on himself right here.
Oh.
Again, I'm very grateful to you that we're exploring together this pathology.
Yes.
And in its various facets. One can begin with the notion that he's going to make this negation in order to attain to something better.
No, that's not negation.
And that's not negation at
No.
all.
The negation is to deny what is false, not knowing what is true.
Yes.
To see the false in the false, and to see the truth in the false. And it is the truth that denies the false. You don't deny the false, but you see what is false. And the very seeing of what is false is the truth.
Yes, of course.
And that denies, that sweeps away all this. I don't know if I make myself clear.
Well, I had a very interesting experience in class yesterday. I had given the class an assignment. I think I mentioned this in a conversation we had yesterday. I'd given the class an assignment to go and look at the tree. So in effect, I'm making a report as to what happened after they came back. Well, one young woman described what happened to her. And she described it in such a way that the class was convinced, and I was convinced, that there was no blockage of her looking between herself and this tree. She was calmly ecstatic in her report. That sounds like a curious juxtaposition of words, but it seems to me to be correct. But then I asked her a question. And I said, well, now, were you thinking of yourself as looking at this tree? And she hesitated. Mind you, she'd already gone through this whole statement, which was very beautifully undertaken. And I come along, playing the role of the serpent in the garden, you see, and I said, well, now, might it not have been the case at any time when you were doing this that you thought of yourself looking at the tree? And with this hesitation, she began to fall more and more out of her own act. Well, we had a look at that. She and I and the class, we all had a look at what she was doing. Finally, she turned around and said, well, the reason that I stopped was not because of what went on between me and the tree. I'm very clear about that. It's because I'm in class now, and I'm thinking that I ought to say the right thing. And so I've gone and ruined the whole thing. It was a revelation not only to her, but you could see, with respect to the faces all around the room, that we're all involved in this nonsense.
Yes, sir.
And her shock that she could so betray this relationship that she'd had in doing her exercise in just a couple of words was
very revealing.
Almost, it was, yes, extremely revealing, but at the same time desperately hard to believe that anybody would do such a thing to himself. Yes, please do go on.
So, sir, that's it. Negation can only take place when the mind sees the false. The very perception of the false is a negation of the false. And when you see the religions based on miracles, based on personal worship, based on the fear that you yourself, your own life is so shoddy, empty, meaningless, and it is so transient. You're gone in a few years, and the mind creates the image which is eternal, which is marvelous, which is